Do you keep livestock in this house? Are you seriously trying to feed Tommy this junk? I can't believe it. My mother-in-law said this and tossed my dish into the trash. What? Your family isn't my family. My only family has always been my mom. You know, how long are you going to keep saying stupid things? Just so you know, there's a huge difference in value between my mom and your family. Anyone can see that, right? Although I was furious just moments ago, I had now completely calmed down. I truly despised Tommy, who was laughing loudly after disrespecting my family. Mom's moving in next month. Clear out your room. Seeing me not respond, Tommy emphasized with a raised voice, Hey, are you hearing me? Mom's going to move in next month. I'll be on a business trip till then. In the meantime, make sure to clean up all your stuff, okay? Got it. Tommy glared at me with stern words, but I just smiled sweetly and replied, Sure thing, I'll tidy it up. Then I returned to my bedroom. I once thought Tommy was a wonderful person who cherished his family, but in reality, he's just a pitiful man controlled by his mother, unable to have his own opinion as an adult. I was never family to him. I wouldn't mind whatever he said about me, but he also spoke cruelly about my precious family, unforgivable. Just as he wanted, I'll clean everything up nicely. He can look forward to it. I wish he and his beloved mother would just go to hell together. I'm Emily Smith, a 35-year-old housewife. I married Tommy last year, and it's been exactly a year now. I met Tommy at a gathering hosted by one of my friends. It was an event exclusively for men and women over 30, like a mixer for adults. Tommy was there because a mutual acquaintance had invited him. He was slender and tall, standing out among the male participants. Right at the start of the event, there was a slight buzz among the women because of him. However, when he introduced himself in a mumbled and soft voice, the interest from the ladies quickly faded. Tommy gave off a somewhat introverted vibe, which didn't seem to appeal much to the women. But I was sitting close by and didn't miss a word of Tommy's introduction. The most important thing to me is family. Tommy had indeed said that, and his words resonated with me. I found an opportunity to strike up a conversation with him. I feel the same way. Family is the most important thing to me too. I felt that behind his glasses, Tommy's eyes lit up. After that event, through my friend who organized it, I got a call from Tommy. After several dates and finding that we got along really well, we started seeing each other. At the social gathering, Tommy seemed reserved, but usually he's quite talkative. Most of the stories that came from Tommy were about his family, mainly his mother. I truly admire my mom. She gave birth to me and raised me. I'm just so grateful. She means the world to me. Hearing him speak so fondly of his family made me cherish Tommy even more. Just like Tommy, my family is the most important thing to me, irreplaceable. I have a father, a mother, and a younger brother who's in college. Back in the day, my dad's business had some rough times, and we faced financial hardships. But no matter what, we all stuck together with smiles on our faces. With experiences like that, I'm convinced that we share a strong bond as a family. Right now, my family, except for me, is overseas because of my father's job. I stayed in the US because of my own job. If I hadn't married, I might have eventually moved abroad too. But then I met Tommy, feeling that Tommy, who cherishes his family just like I do, might be someone I can build a life with. My mom told me that she thinks you, Emily, and I could have a happy life together, so let's get married. And so, a year ago, Tommy and I tied the knot. 1 year into our marriage, I've learned a few things about Tommy that I hadn't known before. First, Tommy's personality. Hey, Emily, I can't find my favorite shirt in the closet. You need to be on top of things. The Tommy I first met, who spoke softly and seemed so shy, turned out to be quite self-centered. Moreover, the sweet way he used to call me Emmy changed to Emily the day after we got married. At first, it caught me off guard, but I thought it was just because we became closer. However, I wish you wouldn't yell over trivial matters. If you're talking about that shirt, you told me to send it for dry cleaning yesterday, and I did. It'll be ready tomorrow. Upon hearing this, Tommy visibly frowned. If I told you yesterday, you should have sent it out then. I could have worn it today. Think before you act. My response was met with a dismissive comment. Mom would never make a mistake like that. With that, Tommy stormed out. He had instructed me the previous night to take it to the cleaners, so logically, I had done it today. Arguing with Tommy often feels futile, as he never seems to grasp my perspective and inevitably invokes Mom into every disagreement. One thing I've learned since marrying Tommy is that he truly values family above all else. I also hold my family in high regard. That shared value was a significant reason why Tommy and I decided to marry. But it seems his perspective on family may be somewhat skewed. Tommy's relationship with his mother, my mother-in-law, is intense, and he's always been exceptionally attached to her. I've met her a few times, especially during our wedding preparations. She seemed particularly interested in my salary and my family's financial situation, mostly monetary topics. Thankfully, I had been with the same company for years and my savings and income were decent. I suspect that might have been a key factor in their approval of our marriage, but I understand a parent's concern for their child's well-being, so I didn't dwell on it. When we decided to marry, I already had a spacious home where I lived with my family, so Tommy moved in with me to start our new life together. As we discussed room allocations, Tommy chuckled and said, I don't plan on having kids, so let's have separate bedrooms. My mom always said that kids are loud and take a lot of work. She didn't want to burden me with that. Isn't she sweet? By the way, she mentioned it would be great if the kids took after me, but hell if they look like Emily. Tommy's reliance on his mother's opinions about children left me feeling unsettled. At that time, I believed Tommy would eventually want kids, so I went along with it. However, a turnoff happened later. One day, my mother-in-law announced she'd spend the night at our place. She'd been over several times, but she always left before nighttime. This would be her first sleepover. Tommy was thrilled about hosting her, and I hurriedly prepared the guest room. Tommy chimed in, "Mom's going to sleep in my room, so it's all good." I wasn't sure what he meant, but when I tried moving the guest bedding to Tommy's room, he refused. I couldn't believe it, but when I went to wake them up the next day, they were both sleeping in the same bed. It's great they're close, but isn't sharing a bed a bit much? I felt like I'd seen something I shouldn't have and quietly left Tommy's room. After that, I knew I'd never share a bedroom with Tommy again. Another post-marriage revelation was Tommy's attitude toward money. Maybe it's how his mother raised him, but Tommy believed in spending all he earned on himself and never contributing to the household. I've asked Tommy several times to help with expenses, but he'd say, "My mom always told me my money is mine. Besides, your earnings are mine as your husband. It's natural, right? So, shouldn't you help with living expenses?" And that was that. Tommy never contributed financially and bought expensive bicycles as a hobby. Without my consent, he built a shed for them in our backyard. Every day, seeing that shed, I couldn't help but feel a certain way. "You're over so often. Is your husband okay with that?" One day, I finally asked my mother-in-law about her frequent visits. "He's working out of state on his own. As long as he sends money every month, he doesn't care." I felt sorry for my father-in-law, knowing he was away from home for work. While Tommy always claimed family was important, it seemed his primary concern was his mother. One day, Tommy enjoyed another meal prepared by my mother-in-law, who had come over again. Despite my efforts to prepare a meal as well, she discarded everything. "Do you have livestock in this house?" she remarked. "Is this animal feed? You weren't really planning to serve this mediocre dish to Tommy, were you?" I can't believe it. With that, she dumped it, plate and all, into the trash. I stood there in shock as my mother-in-law took over the cooking, silently observing as she used the same knife for both meat and fruit. It sent chills down my spine. "What are you staring at? So creepy. I didn't make anything for you, so figure something out for yourself." Her dismissal was expected. Part of me felt relieved. Watching Tommy eat a meal carelessly prepared by my mother-in-law filled me with concern about our future. Her visits became a pattern, bullying me and lavishing excessive affection on Tommy. Ever since I discovered them sleeping in the same bed, I found reasons to decline my mother-in-law's stayovers. I simply couldn't bear it and refused to accept it. Perhaps that's why her visits became more frequent. Almost every day after work, I'd find my mother-in-law already settled in the living room. It became a common occurrence, sometimes with Tommy unexpectedly at home during what I assumed were his working hours. "Why are you home early?" I asked Tommy one day. "I took the day off because Mom's coming over," he replied casually. I felt deeply disappointed and disheartened. If he was using his vacation days like this just for his mother's frequent visits, what would he do in the future? After my mother-in-law left, I gathered my courage and asked Tommy, "Can I ask you something?" Tommy looked momentarily surprised but quickly responded, "Mom thought maybe I should get married at least once. That's why I went to that party. We got along well, and she thought you were well off, so she said, why not?" Learning that he approached our marriage with the same casualness as picking out a watermelon at the supermarket with his mom made me want to sigh deeply. I had married Tommy because he was kind, gentlemanly, and valued family deeply. Before we married, I had felt love for him. But Tommy seemed to have no affection for me at all. For him, his mother was everything, and her word was law. For the first time, I seriously considered the idea of divorce, which I had avoided until then. Could I continue like this with Tommy? Lost in thought, I let out a heavy sigh. One day, when I came home from work, something in the living room felt off. It seemed emptier somehow. Then I realized what was missing. This home originally belonged to my family, so it held many items from them. But now they were gone. A small bookshelf my brother made for me in school, a framed painting by my mother, souvenirs from overseas that my father had given me. They were all missing. Even my gold ring and pendant, gifts from my mother when I got married, were gone. I had kept them carefully in a case in our bedroom, but they were nowhere to be found. Many other cherished items from my family were also missing. I searched frantically throughout the entire house, my bedroom, Tommy's bedroom, even the shed in the backyard that Tommy used, but they were nowhere to be found. I stood in the living room, stunned. Tommy, who had just returned, noticed my disheveled appearance and laughed. "What's up? Why is your hair all messed up?" he asked casually, oblivious to my distress. For confirmation, I asked Tommy, "Something I got from my family is missing. Do you know anything about it?" Tommy's response shocked me. "Huh, that junk? I threw it out. It was always in the way. It's bulk trash day today, so I dumped it." I stared at Tommy in disbelief. He had discarded my cherished possession, a gift from my family. "You threw out the ring and pendant too?" I asked, my voice trembling. Tommy looked guilty as he replied, "I might have. They were just old junk." My anger flared. "Why would you do that? Those were precious to me, gifts from my family." Tommy hesitated, then retorted defensively, "Your stuff is my stuff, right? That's what my mother said. What's the big deal if I got rid of my own stuff? And why are you so obsessed with your family? We're married now. Move on. It's embarrassing." I couldn't believe what I was hearing. Wasn't Tommy the one obsessed with his own family? Did he really think of my family as trashy? His words were so hurtful and absurd that I couldn't think straight. Calling my family trashy? They're your family too. How could you say something so cruel? I shot back, feeling a surge of annoyance. Tommy frowned, annoyed. "Your family isn't my family. The only family I care about is my mom. Your parents only managed to produce someone like you. They're trash, but my mom gave birth to me. Can't you see the difference? Maybe it's too hard for someone like you to understand." Any remaining anger turned into cold clarity. I realized I genuinely despised Tommy, who was mocking my family with a smug grin. His next words only deepened my disillusionment. "My mom really likes this house, so I've decided she should live here too." I remained silent, stunned. Tommy's tone grew sharper. "What? Have a problem with that? This may have been your house originally, but it's mine now too. If you don't like it, we can just get divorced." With that, Tommy shoved divorce papers in my face. He had already arranged everything with a lawyer. It was clear this was his mother's doing. Did he expect this to break my spirit? I couldn't even muster a sigh anymore. "Mom's moving in next month. Clean out your room," Tommy demanded, his voice loud and forceful. When I didn't respond, he raised his voice further. "Hey, are you listening? Mom's moving in next month. I'll be away on business till then. Make sure to clean up all your stuff, got it?" Inwardly, I sighed at his aggression. It was hard to believe this was the same man who had introduced himself so softly when we first met. Facing Tommy's glare, I simply smiled and replied, "Sure thing, I'll tidy up." Then I calmly returned to my bedroom. Once I returned, I wasted no time packing. Despite my anger towards Tommy, receiving those divorce papers felt like a small victory. I paused packing to make a phone call. After a couple of conversations, my spirits began to lift. I used to think he was a wonderful man who valued family, but in reality, he's just a mama's boy who idolizes his mother excessively. It's natural to care for one's mother, but Tommy takes it to an extreme. Being so controlled by his mother and unable to form his own opinions as an adult, I almost pity him. I tried to embrace his mother too, but it was impossible. "I'm sorry, but I can't fit into his world with her, and I don't want to." To him, I was never truly family. If it were just about me, I could ignore his words, but he also said cruel things about my precious family. That's unforgivable. Just as he wished, I'll clean everything up neatly for him. He can look forward to it. I hope he and his beloved mother go to hell together. The next morning, my phone kept ringing nonstop. It was Tommy calling. I assumed his business trip was over, but calling early on a weekend morning. Give me a break. I answered the phone. Before I could say anything, Tommy's enraged voice burst through the line. Emily, what the hell did you do? The house is gone. What's going on? Tommy sounded genuinely panicked. What's the matter? Didn't you tell me to clean up all my stuff? So I did. Tommy was speechless at my response. Yes, I did. I continued calmly, just as you instructed. I cleared out all my belongings after my family moved abroad. The house was in my name. My father had given me the option to tear it down or sell it. I decided to keep it for a while longer, but when Tommy told me to clean up, I consulted my father. After explaining everything to him, he suggested selling the house. That's when I took action. I contacted a realtor immediately, sold the house, and it was demolished soon after. Now it's just an empty lot. Are you out of your mind? Where's the furniture? Where are my things? Tommy's voice sounded much weaker now. What happened to your earlier bravado? Most of the things, including the house, furniture, and belongings, have been with me since before we married. So I packed everything up and asked for your things. They're all neatly stored in that shed of yours that you're so proud of. When I sold the property, I left only a small corner of the yard, about the size of a small closet. That's where Tommy's shed, the only thing he ever paid for, stands. Inside the shed are those fancy bikes and a few other items, I added, sensing Tommy's shock through the phone. Suddenly, my mother-in-law's voice interrupted. Emily, what's going on here? Where's Tommy's house? I've just brought moving boxes in my truck. What's the meaning of this? Say something. After all the selfish decisions she's made over the years, you'd think she could handle this herself. I thought to myself, listening to her angry tirade. You're Tommy's wife, aren't you? What's with that attitude? I'm his mother, you're just a wife. Know your place. A wife should quietly listen to her husband and mother-in-law, she continued. Such unreasonable accusations. What does she think being a wife means? I'm truly relieved I took action before she could rob me of my dignity. With all due respect, I'm no longer your daughter-in-law. I responded calmly. I informed her that Tommy had initiated divorce proceedings and that I had recorded everything he said during that time. Given his escalating verbal abuse since our marriage, I had started using a voice recorder. The divorce papers were already with a lawyer, so I had contacted them. We are now legally separated. There was a brief silence on the other end. Then my mother-in-law's voice erupted again. If that's the case, send me the money from the property division. The house, the furniture, it's all marital property, isn't it? You have to split it with Tommy. Send me the money. I took a deep breath and calmly explained, the house and all the household items have been mine since before we married. Tommy is well aware of that. Besides, since our marriage, he hasn't contributed financially to the house, so we don't have any joint assets. That shed over there was built with Tommy's own money. Technically, it should be considered in the property division, but I don't have any need for it. From the other end of the phone, I could hear my mother-in-law's voice demanding, is that all? Yes, that's all there is. In our year of marriage, that's the only thing we've retained, and it was purely for Tommy's personal satisfaction, something I don't need. Misunderstandings have been so frequent that it's almost laughable. Now, what was the point of this marriage? She should consider herself lucky that the shed is still standing. By the way, the land where the house once stood has already been sold to a realtor. If you don't vacate soon, it could become a legal issue. As for the shed's location, it's fine for now, but please remove it promptly, or I'll have to take legal action. The mention of court seemed to agitate her. I could almost hear her grinding her teeth in frustration. By the way, where's Tommy? I haven't heard his voice in a while. Tommy, stop crying and compose yourself. Everything will be fine if you just do as Mom says, all right? It seemed Tommy was sobbing. Such childish behavior. His boyish charm was endearing once, but now he just seemed like a pitiful mama's boy. Yeah, you're right, if I just listen to Mom and stay with that woman. Tommy's words were abruptly cut off, likely by his mother muffling him. She must have something she doesn't want me to hear. But it's too late. I've covered all my bases and have solid evidence, so I'm not worried. By the way, where are you both? Tell me, and I'll come over. I declined her request. Finding temporary accommodation was inconvenient for me. We're strangers now, and I doubt we'll ever meet again. Expect to hear from my lawyer soon. Please handle it when that happens. I had a few photographs in my hand. They showed Tommy, his mother-in-law, and an unfamiliar woman. They were taken during the time Tommy claimed he was on a business trip. A friend who hosted parties where Tommy and I first met mentioned seeing them together while on vacation. The photos captured moments of Tommy and the woman entering a room together and leaving in the morning. Why? How did you find out? Tommy's voice came through faintly, almost like the buzz of a mosquito. It surprised me that he had the energy to speak. Apparently, a friend who continued hosting parties informed me of Tommy's recent activities. Despite our marriage, Tommy returned to attending these parties where he met this woman. Tommy hit it off with her, and they went home together. It turns out, the woman seen with him on vacation was indeed the same lady. But Mom said every man should have at least one affair. She thinks this lady is more beautiful, so why not have a child with her? Tommy's outraged statement caught me off guard, but I sighed, realizing it must be his mother's influence again. Regardless of her influence, cheating is cheating, and I won't let this slide. I don't care about excuses. Be prepared for the divorce process, Tommy. I already know the other woman's identity through my friend, so she should be ready too. I don't have your current address, so I assume the notice will be sent to your workplace, Tommy, I continued, hearing his sobs on the other end. His mother's voice chimed in, consoling him, which made me feel nauseous, but I had to continue. By the way, expect a visit from the police for a chat, so please cooperate, all right? There was no response from his mother. She probably understands the gravity of her actions. Did you steal my precious ring and pendant? I have photos from that affair trip showing you wearing my ring and pendant. I will never forgive this. And just so you know, I've already informed your husband. He was furious. He even mentioned divorce, so you'll get your wish, a dream life with just you and Tommy. As I was about to hang up the phone, I thought I heard an indescribable scream from her on the other end. Looking outside the window, the sun was about to set. I wondered where those two would spend the night. Well, with that old shed they have, they'll probably be sheltered from the rain and wind for a bit. That's the least bit of compassion I could show them. Honestly, I don't care. Tonight, I'm going to sleep soundly. Firstly, I received a message with an apology from Tommy's mistress. She seemed to be involved in the nightlife industry, and there was even an apologetic note saying it was just a momentary lapse of judgment. On the other hand, after a formal notice arrived at Tommy's workplace revealing his affair, it became uncomfortable for him, and it seems he eventually resigned on his own accord. His father fronted the compensation money, but he made it clear he's going to be relentless in collecting it from Tommy. Tommy's mother was hit with divorce papers from him. It seems there have been issues in the past with her being overly protective of Tommy. His father mentioned that he had run out of patience after this incident. From now on, not only will no money come her way, but she's also facing inquiries from the police on suspicion of theft. Although she had been repeatedly claiming family theft because there was no recognized fact of cohabitation between her and me, she ended up with a criminal record. Now Tommy and his mother are renting a small apartment and seem to be getting by with part-time jobs. That old shed has been removed, and I've heard a new house is going to be built on the empty lot where my house once stood. I hope from the bottom of my heart that the people who live in that house will be a warm family. Rolling my suitcase behind me, I walked through the airport concourse, eager to reunite with my beloved family. My heart naturally lifted with joy. I'm heading to the country where my family lives to start a new chapter in my life. I hurriedly made my way to the boarding gate.